Thanks for joining us for Political Talk on another PolitiPod Live. I'm Tom Bickle,
And I'm Matt Nisanoff.
here to discuss current political events. Tonight we'll cover shootings, alligator Alcatraz, torture accusations, COVID impact, Wisconsin Badgers U, ICE, Trump dump. We'll also have our segments on the media and international news. But we'll start with
Oh, shoot. The shootings have
Indeed.
happened recently. Word on the Brown University shooting. I'm sure you've heard about this already. And there were two people who were killed in the Brown University shootings. There were two people killed in Brooklyn at a recent shooting. And then the Hanukkah shooting down at Bondi Beach in Australia. And we're seeing that. I wish I could say it was a reemergence of this issue, but this is happening so often, so many times a week now, that it is just par for the course, I'm afraid. We should see, with all these concerns that are popping up and the potential release of we're reaching the deadline for the release of the Epstein files from the government. We should be seeing a war start any time now. And the U.S. is certainly uh, getting things in line down in Venezuela. With the Another oil boat was seized, and there's also been claims that fentanyl is coming from Venezuela. Now, there's a lot of stuff coming from Venezuela, and there's also a lot of fentanyl in certain parts of the United States. But the problem is they're not really connected. The fentanyl is not coming from Venezuela. So this whole thing where there was an announcement of fentanyl being a weapon of mass destruction in order to justify the Venezuela adventure, call it Trump's folly, um, just is once again, just like with Iraq, it's just a couple of words they think will be a help them sell the idea. And so here we are. Who's really scaring people with violence again? Um, what do you think, Tom?
Well, I mean, you covered a lot of ground from shootings in Australia and America to war in Venezuela. Yeah, a lot of shooting, a lot of shooting involved here. I mean, the shooting at the Bondi Beach. Uh, all of these are their own. They're all an hour's worth of media for discussion and pulling apart and things and examining. Uh, but that one was, I mean, from the heroics of not just one person, but three people or more to try to stop these shooters. Two people lost their lives, which I didn't hear about as quickly or uh, see as often touted is the older folks who tried to challenge one of these folks with a gun, and they eventually lost. And it's very sad, and their heroism should not be diminished. So there's that. There's also the other guy who successfully did take a gun away from someone. Didn't manage not to shoot that person. Good for him. And just another encouraging note in a nightmarish scenario. There's so much to take from those.
And,
And I'd like to point out that they didn't have automatic weapons, and it could have been a lot worse if it were an American style situation. And we should be thankful it wasn't any worse than it was.
well, true. I mean, it's certainly good that it wasn't worse. I agree. The gentleman who did step in, Ahmed Al Ahmed, deserves, as you say,
The
all
hero
of
so
those
nice. The hero so nice. They named him twice.
who stepped in, right? All of the people who stepped in deserve to be recognized for their heroism. This is the gentleman who caught on film jumping from behind a car to wrestle a weapon from one of the shooters. As you say, he could have just pulled the trigger right there and then, but he did not. Uh, and the perpetrator sort of walked away.
What do you think
Um,
about that decision, Matt? If you had 5 seconds to think about it, what would you consider?
oh
Like shooting
wow,
someone? Could you shoot
that's
someone? Could you even do it? Are you worried about the legal ramifications? Are you worrying about getting shot by the police because they show up a split second and think you have a gun? I don't know. Is any of that bear for
I'll
you?
be honest, I certainly don't think about that. I certainly don't think about the repercussion of police or other things. I think in the moment you're so, uh, and I would be so hyped up by the situation, the adrenaline would sort of, I assume, kick in that kind of
Sure,
thing, and I I I almost wonder if he just didn't know how to work the weapon. If it was more that he just grabbed it and
maybe.
pulled it and was like, "Oh, okay, I've got this thing now,"
Yeah,
and wasn't wasn't clear on, "Oh, okay, I can just do this." Um, so the shock of the moment, and you even see him. He does point the gun at the guy to scare him off,
yeah,
but then in the next 2 minutes, or within the next, I don't know how long, 30 seconds or something, he sort of like raises the gun to show someone,
yeah,
that he's not the guy. He's not the guy. He's
yeah,
like, okay, I'm putting this down. So maybe the police, maybe that was the police, or maybe that was somebody else with another weapon.
yeah.
But I would, um, I'd certainly expect that it was just that I would be over, you know, overstimulated in the moment, and that would make the judgment for me whether I was
Mm,
able to be capable of then pulling a trigger or just, not knowing what to do next.
interesting.
Um, Yeah,
You said
I
so.
honestly don't think that it's not that's not a thinker. In the situation, you're not going, "Well, now I wonder there might be repercussions. There might be legal repercussions of this. I gotta
No,
really give
I
this some
hear
thought."
you. I hear you, and I had similar thoughts. But honestly, when I first saw that footage, that's what I thought of in the first 5 seconds. I was like, A, is the guy a threat? Do you have to shoot him? Okay, no. B, are you, maybe you're seen a lot of Rambo movies, or you feel maybe he's shot somebody you care about or scared somebody you care about. Maybe you want to get a little revenge while the getting's good in the heat of the moment. But after that, I thought about, what would that do to him psychologically? Uh, I like to think that I could plug a gun wielding maniac and not suffer from it, but who knows? You don't know until it chooses you. I suspect, and a lot of people. I mean, you see people in the military with a lot of uh, regrets and issues upstairs and things like that. Those things wear on a person. It's not free. And other people blow people away and probably don't, miss a minute's sleep. But I thought about that. I thought about legal ramifications. Anybody who's had to consider getting in a fist fight, you got to think about getting sued or getting injured. I mean, those are the two. Other than that, yeah, have fun, shit, enjoy yourself. But if neither of those are concerned, anyway. And I thought about that, and then with my decades of American police videos under my belt and in my brain, a brown guy with a gun in an active scene is absolutely, pushing his luck at a minimum to not to get shot by some hero who just comes around a corner, some asshole, come running from the Walmart or whatever, going to, again, Americanized. They don't have this type of thing in Australia, I guess, but you could have a cop come around. I don't know if they're having a standoff or at that point, if there's even cops there or a sniper from a rooftop nearby. Who knows?
Certainly not. It's
And
certainly not. Look,
and
these this guy and his son were able to kill 15 people and wound 40 others. There was not somebody on the scene ready
yeah,
for them. There was
yeah, I
not a
guess so.
sniper hiding out. There was
Okay,
not a
well there you
cop
go.
that walked around the corner.
I didn't have
Um,
any context for the video when I saw it, so
right, right.
but and I'd like to say I've had adrenaline rushes like that, and your brain is a potato. There's not a but what it does do a lot of times is you can hyper focus, and if you hyper focus on the right thing, and you go tunnel vision, but at least your tunnel is pointed in the right direction. Your brain, I think a person could think of through a few of those. I know I've got the luxury of time and calm on my side, but anyway, that's what I thought about. I just wondered what you thought about.
Well, and I'll add in this. I had an incident here where I was walking down the street, and I was looking at my phone. I wasn't looking ahead of me. I was just walking, and somebody was coming from the other direction.
Hmm.
And because I was looking at my phone, he punched me in the chest.
Jesus
Um,
Christ.
now
Just a,
it wasn't
just a stranger?
a absolute stranger. Never seen him before. Haven't seen him since. But it also was not, it wasn't a brutal assault, but he just gave me a shot to the solar plexus. And
What
I
a
was
weird
so
thing.
shocked in the
Uh-huh.
moment
Yeah.
that I just kind of looked up and was like, "What? What is going on?" So
Yeah.
my afterwards, I was thinking, "Well, I should have just punched him, and I should have just,
Right. Right.
stepped on his foot and crushed his windpipe, and all that kind of stuff." But
Yeah.
that's afterwards. That's not in the moment. In the moment, it's just like, "What is happening?"
Yeah.
And why
Almost
is
doesn't
it?
register.
What is going on? So
Maybe.
um, being in the violence is different than seeing it, and having a time to analyze in your mind what to do next, or
Absolutely.
how to respond. Um, okay, so there's certainly we'll see now. Australia is known specifically for having a very tough gun laws, and they passed a couple since that incident occurred. The lawmakers were ready to do it. They got to it. They did it. That is a very large contrast. The last time there was any kind of a mass shooting 30 years ago or 40 years ago, whenever it was, they put very tough gun laws into place, and they hadn't had an incident until this one. So,
Yeah.
is 40 years of not having shootings caused by having tight gun regulations? Sure looks it. I mean, we can contrast it with what we have, and there's protections for the guns more
Freedom.
than the people and here, and we have weekly shootings. In Brown, it was two more people killed and 9 people wounded. Um,
Hmm.
so and that's one incident in, as I say, a week's time of a dozen different
Pathetic. It's
incidents.
pathetic. I want to say we should have fewer shootings. We should have shootings less often than I go to the movies, and I go to the movies only a couple of times a year anymore, and we have them a couple of times a week. It's pathetic, and Australia 30 years went right. That's enough of that crap, and did something about it, and it happened again. They did something about it again. They didn't listen to idiots and people who hem and haw in the halls of power who say, "Oh, I don't know, now's not the time to discuss this type of thing. You're still overheated about it. You're very emotional. Why don't you have a good lie down and we'll talk about this on the 12th and never." That we shouldn't settle for that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely true. I agree with that.
I tell you, we've been had, Matt, bamboozled.
There you go. Too true, and especially with the you can't talk about it now. It's too soon.
Right.
You can't talk about it now. Well,
Now's not,
not only
now's not the
can
time.
you, but you damn well better. Um,
How pathetic, though. How sad are we as a people that we've been able to just someone can just grab us by our pretty little head and go shush 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 shush, and we fall back to thoughts and prayers. Now's not the time. Thoughts and prayers. Now's not the time, and we just go for it. We get bad. Shame on them for pulling it on us. Shame on us for falling for it. I'm not. I'm dissatisfied with it, Matt.
Too true. And this is one of those things where you actually have to agree, certainly. And so, speaking of how things are understood and how they're put forward, I'm gonna actually jump us to our first segment of the night, which
All right.
is on the media. And if you can bring up what we have for that, and we'll start looking at some things that have happened. I'm going to go off camera for a second while you're doing that.
You got it.
And there's a statement that was made by Keith Olbermann. I think we should have a look at that.
Absolutely. Queuing that up. You know what, Matt? Why don't we go with the Mom Donnie real quick?
Did we have Keith?
Momentarily. No, we don't have Keith for a minute.
Okay, well,
Technical difficulties. Please stand by.
The first news reporter who stands up to Trump and calls him out to his face in public will get fired, and within 48 hours will get a new job paying twice as much or more and will become a national hero. America is crying out for somebody to take the risk that isn't really a risk and tell him to shut the hell up and tell him to F off and tell him to shove his threats and stochastic hints at destruction and violence and his A plus 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 up his ass. It is time. Now, now, now. Because Trump has now threatened the New York Times with sedition and treason charges for committing the heinous, unpatriotic act of suggesting he's a little tired, for criticizing him. Doesn't matter that it's just another threat that his losses over Kimmel and Comey and Tish James have set back the clock.
All right. So that gave us a good taste of what was on Keith Olbermann's mind just this past week. I know we've got bigger fish to fry with war brewing in Venezuela, but I wanted to include that video because I've been complaining about this for a while. That President Trump's his bombastic shenanigans have gone on unchallenged for too long, and I think it gives him this air of inevitability. And I think it's part of the press's job. At least it was back in my day, to stand up to these things and challenge people when they lose their mind in public like this, and then not put them on the air anymore when they lie 1,000 times. That's abusive to your viewers. People used to care. They wouldn't put nut jobs on TV to lie to their viewers. They would, and if they found somebody acting that way or being a racist or being awful or whatever, there was any number of reasons they'd throw you off the air immediately in the middle of a live shot and never have you on again, and they'd lose your number and you'd lose a bit of national standing and have trouble getting traction in the future. And it used to be a real threat, and I don't understand why we don't do it anymore. And with this Gulf of America business, I've said that the AP should have walked out, and they did. They weren't having it. Everybody else should have walked out with them, and they don't. They want the access. They need the access. Can't sell papers without the access. And it gets us where we are. Nobody's and everybody's afraid to tell the emperor he's not wearing anything, and it's absolutely. I don't get it.
fair enough. And the actions that he's also taken, Trump is suing the BBC, the British Broadcast Corporation, and that's a result of, there's a show there called Panorama where they look at the news, and they had edited his speech from January 6th, where he had said, how they had to go fight, 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 and that they needed to go down to the Capitol and do that. And he did say the things that they had in the clip, but they were one thing from sort of the beginning and then one thing from the end. So the complaint was you misrepresented what I said by the way you edited it, and they have accepted that that is the case. I mean, they could argue that they were just showing a summary of what he said, but they decided to say, no, you're right, we were wrong, and they've removed that portion of that show from the rebroadcast. And now he's saying, I'm going to sue you for $10 billion for the mistake, for the bad editing. The BBC has said that they're not going to back down because of this, that it's kind of ridiculous, a ridiculous threat in the first place. So they're certainly not going to back down, certainly not going to cede to it. But also, the United Kingdom government is now under pressure to back the broadcast corporation, their own broadcast corporation. Will they? Will they stand up? Or are they going to be like the American politicians who just sort of say, "Well, that's the guy. We can't say anything bad about him, and he's allowed to do what he wants to do." And gee whiz, I wish he wouldn't, but there you go. That's just him being him. Or are they going to get a bit of a backbone and say, "Look, what they did was wrong, but there's no justification for $10 billion, and we're certainly going to back you in any action that does take place from it." But we'll have to wait and we'll have to wait and see. This is how will the media handle it?
Well, I tell you, for, Trump has gotten so accustomed to abusing the press in this country and smacking them until money falls out. He's taking it on the road. He's taking his show for a tour, a European tour, and he's gonna kick. He's gonna kick the BBC and see if any pounds fall out of them. I hope it doesn't. You really don't want to reward this behavior. It's like a bad dog or a small evil child. You don't want to reward bad behavior. You'll never be end of it. And the UK press, it's funny. It's funny you say the royals have to work with the press to get this done, because the UK press is a nightmare. They can be vicious, and they play by different rules than we do over here. So for them to play nice, that just shows you the galvanizing power of a common enemy.
Well, to be fair, this is not one of the tabloids. This is the BBC. This is
Yeah,
the government's official television or entertainment um, corporation. So it's not as were it the Daily Mirror
yeah,
or one of their other, as you say, they're one of the more vicious tabloids, then maybe we'd see whether or not how they would respond. But this is
yeah.
their own people, and they need to stand up. Makes it even more important that they stand up for their own people. Um, there is one other story, which is in Hong Kong. There's a media mogul who has been imprisoned by the Chinese, and he's Hong Kong. He's from Hong Kong. He's pro democracy, and he's a media mogul, and he's being held for 5 years, and having been convicted in a landmark national security trial without a jury, and uh, really was the last remaining vestige of free press there. So we'll see if that actually doesn't get extended to life in prison. They're going to try something, and we'll have to watch that, because that's another, as you said, this is one where the media is under attack, and the question is, are the other media sources going to step up and defend, even if they don't agree? Will they step up and defend, because this is undermining media as a whole if it's allowed? It's the thing where they might go after somebody you don't like today, but you can be sure they're going to go after you eventually, because you're going to be the only one standing after that, and you don't have that. If you don't have the safeguard of defending it now, it's certainly going to bite you in the tuchus later.
Yeah, there was a poem to that effect at some point. First
Yeah,
they came for the such and such.
yeah, yeah.
Probably doesn't bear any meaning for today. Safely
That's from
forgotten.
history. Yeah, that's from history. Who bothers with that stuff?
Exactly.
We're going to move on to the actually go to the return of alligator Alcatraz. There's been a report from Amnesty International, and apparently there's some torture techniques that are being used down in Florida. Now, what they're talking about in particular is the cages that the people are kept in, and they are kept literally in cages inside. There's lack of sanitation, so they're literally standing in their own urine and waste. There are, uh, there's distractions that prevent them from getting enough sleep. There are, and perhaps most importantly, apparently there's a 2 foot by 2 foot cage that's taken outside. That's bars. Now think about that: 2 feet by 2 feet. How are you going to fit into that space?
Right.
You're not going to be able to stand up. You're not going to be able to lay down. You're not going to be so you're sort of just hunched over, and your certainly your legs are going to be extended out the bars, and that is taken outside in
It's
the
a two
heat
foot
and sun.
cube, you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. It's basically a
Wow.
cube made of bars.
They should just give you a hamster ball at that point.
Right, right. Well, listen, don't give them any suggestions. They that
Sounds
could be
more
next.
comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Certainly be more comfortable. And so this is the sort of thing that we used to not do. This is not America. This is the extension of the
Well,
things that
in
are all the
fairness,
things that are wrong.
we did it, then we didn't do it. Now we're doing it again. So we used to not do it, but we used to also do it. ask a
Well,
ask a Japanese person.
there's examples on both sides from that, but I do get what you mean. You're talking about internment camps.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know that I don't know that people in the internment camps were kept in boxes outside
I don't honestly I
indoors.
don't know one way or the other. I don't know how they were treated.
Well, okay. We would have to look into that. They certainly were unfairly treated by being put in at all
Absolutely.
because
And
it was
my ignorance knows no bounds, but I to say I mean, but anyway, we quibble.
right. But there is an issue, and that needs to be addressed, and we need to do what's right by what we say, as well as
Horrible.
do the right
I can't
thing.
imagine perpetrating this on people. I can't imagine doing it and then not suffering, consequences for it.
Yeah. And then there's and DeSantis, Ron DeSantis, is the governor of Virginia, of Florida, where this is taking place. Um, he holds a press conference after this document is released by Amnesty International. And what does he focus on? Talks about the dangers of AI. He's very concerned about it now.
Huh.
So
Well,
once
I'm
again,
sure
we're back
somebody
to
would.
yeah. Once again, we're back to distraction and anything that will not address the issue, but give someone something to talk about. Let's move on. There's going to the COVID issue, which, of course, there's been a lot of going back and forth over what happened during COVID, what happened after COVID, what happened with vaccines. This is a chart from the CDC talking about how it actually works, and because people didn't understand, and when they don't understand, they get scared, and when they get scared, nowadays it's straight to the conspiracy theory. There's been a couple of different reports on what happened with the vaccines, and the ones I have seen talk about how actually the vaccines reduced the rate of premature babies in women who were pregnant, and also reduced the need for them to be hospitalized in comparison to those who were unvaccinated. Another report came out and said there was a reduction in the medical care needed for children who received the vaccine. And then in the Journal of American Medicine, of the American Medicine Association's journal, so known as JAMA, there was a report that was done in France and followed 22 million people who were vaccinated and almost 6 million who were unvaccinated for a total of 45 months. That's a good basis for making some determinations, I think. That's a fair sample. And what they found was that of those who were vaccinated, 74% had a lower risk of death from COVID and actually increased um, the the as far as all forms of mortality. They had a
You say there's no
increased
increase.
protection from all forms of mortality as compared to the unvaccinated. Um, so, what do you think about studies, and what do you think about learning about vaccines?
Well, I mean, you mentioned how long the study was going on. COVID was, what, 2019, 2020 was the dawn of COVID, so it couldn't have been much longer of a study. uh,
Exactly.
the thing isn't that old. And it says that it was found those vaccinated had a 74% lower risk of death and no increased cause of risk of all mortality. That's what they told us it would do. So it seems promise made, promise kept. I'm pleasantly surprised that it is as advertised. I don't know. It doesn't generate a lot of drama and discussion, but good. That's what it was supposed to do. Thank goodness it did. Not, something had to stem the tide. We were losing thousands and thousands of people every month.
Exactly. And that's exactly what science is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be fancy. It's supposed to be effective. So
Yeah,
the fact that it's the bore, you look at it and you are sort of bored by it, good. That's what you should be.
yeah.
There's
You don't
nothing
want
in
too many
science.
thrills and chills.
Right, exactly. You don't want the excitement coming from your medical analysis. But then again, also there's no medical evidence that would be enough to de-arm the war on America types. The Trump's war on America continues, and they're going to. I'm sure that they will. RFK or somebody from one of his new committees will come out and say that there was a disaster and that there really were secret deaths by the millions. And uh, this is like with the weight loss issue when Dr. Oz got up and said, you know, we're gonna not only have the weight loss stuff, but we're gonna have it, and it's gonna cause. It averaged out to be 400 pounds lost within a
per,
year of
per
every
person.
single American.
Right. Man, woman, child, fetus. Absolutely.
Exactly, exactly. Now, you know, it's so outrageous, but of course, it's exactly what they will say, and they will not back down from that, and they'll say that they have proof for it, just like Trump talking about reducing the cost of medicines by 1,500%.
Why
Of
not?
course, you can reduce prices by 1,500%. So you can lose 400 pounds between now and next November. I mean, get on that already. What's going on?
Yeah. So for some reason, these people don't have any credibility. I don't know why. I don't know where it went because they're super. Their data is rock solid.
Exactly. Let's move on. We're gonna move on to Wisconsin and some things happening there. Oh, look at that, a badger. Let me badger you with this. Uh, the Trump lackeys who misled Wisconsinites to file as presidential electors in the 2020 election are about to go back to court. I believe it's Jim Tropis and, of course, perhaps the best known Kenneth Cheesebro and Mike Roman. Am I pronouncing that
Yeah.
correctly?
Yeah.
Cheesebro.
Well,
And
opinions vary, but I think it's cheese, bro.
Yeah, I think so, and perfect for Wisconsin as well. So, and
One
Mike
brain.
Roman, they told a group of fake electors to go ahead and file a paperwork saying that they were the legitimate electors from Wisconsin, although Trump lost, and to file it with Vice President Pence and let him take care of it from there. And now that it's worked its way through the court system, they're going to go back to court now, and we'll see if this is a step towards accountability finally for what they did. And it's also happening at the state level. That's an important point because that means no presidential pardon. Presidential pardons are for people who are convicted of federal crimes, so they're not going to be able to rely on their friend in the White House. Now, the electors themselves are not facing charges. It's just the three people who are trying to defraud the people of America out of a free and fair election. So
Right.
that's a very positive thing. Allegedly,
Indeed.
um, and that's so that could be a big step towards some fairness and accountability, and we'll have to keep an eye on that story. Also, in Wisconsin, there's been opening statements to a Judge Dugan, those accused of distributing official official Department of Homeland Security removal proceedings and knowingly concealing a person from ICE in April, who has since been deported to Mexico and pleads not guilty and will be facing up to 6 years. So that's a case once again where it could be actual accountability, and so the although the system moves slowly and certainly not fast enough to take care of everything as quickly as we want to see, there are things that are happening that are good news for America, for accountability. What do you think?
Now, is this the judge uh, that she let an ICE target leave her office by one door versus another, and they're prosecuting her for that? Is that right?
Exactly. I apologize for not giving a better explanation. Yes, Judge Hannah Dugan, who had allowed someone to leave, I believe a citizen actually,
Mm.
allowed a United States citizen to leave her courtroom in a way that she would not, that person was not exposed to being illegally taken by ICE forces. And yes, they decided to charge her instead, and so she's it
And they
could
arrested
it's
her
six
on the
years on.
spot. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah,
The judge frog marched her out to the street like a like a burglar, and giving her the business. I just you know this is not where I want to see the accountability happen. Uh, but I look forward to her prevailing. Let's see how it goes. I hope it's serves the Trump administration one more loss. Maybe they can
let's
find an insurance commissioner to prosecute the case.
yeah, right. Yeah, right. Let's see if they can actually find an attorney this time. And we will move from Wisconsin, say goodbye to our Badger friend there, and let's um, move on to international news. A couple of
Absolutely.
things have happened in the world in this past week. And for starters, we're talking about Viktor Orban, who's the prime minister in Hungary, and a very alt right sort of character, someone who Trump has used as an example of what he can get away with because Orban's already done it, so why not?
Yeah, the
And
playbook exists. Might as well use it.
exactly. And the people in Hungary are actually done with this as well. They're thinking very much along the lines that we are, that it's gone way too far, and certainly nothing that should be acceptable. And there have been protests. The way they've looked at this in Budapest apparently is that the best thing they can do is protest, and that has worked. It appears that it has moved things move things along, and there's a call for Orban to resign now from tens of thousands of protesters. And
Interesting.
yeah,
So that can
and
work, huh?
well, I mean, it's a step in the right way. So, of the choices that you have, I guess, what are the choices that you have? You can just not do anything and let it happen. You can protest and see what you can do to put together some form of a resistance. You can, you were talking earlier about picking up a weapon and just shooting it. You can
Yeah.
do that, but what kind of response is that going to get you? Um,
Well, we were speaking in terms of self-defense, but lead on.
right. Well, this would be a form of self defense, you could say. I mean, the folks at the Boston
I
Tea
like the
Party, I
way
don't
you.
think were.
I like the
Yeah.
way you think.
Yeah. Well, thank you. But I mean, it's a range. There's a range of options, is what I'm saying. I'm not supporting any particular one of those options right now in this conversation. But I am
Okay.
saying we got to look at what the options are. What are the range of responses that are possible? And this is one protest. I think that point that you'd made in a previous episode of a general strike would, the economic path and showing some disgruntled, showing acting on it instead of just talking about it
Absolutely.
is the sort of thing that actually gets a response. And so here, the people of Budapest are doing one of those. They're protesting and they're saying that he needs to resign. And that's from a guy who's been autocratic for a number of years now and been able
Yeah.
to get away with it. So the fact that they're willing to do that and stand up and say it is, I think, a very positive step and is the sort of thing that has affected change in Eastern Europe, Eastern European countries in the past. We'll see what happens in this case. There's also a story from Germany where they're investing in the military. There's concerns about Putin and what he's going to do next. Quite clearly justifiable. And we'll see. And also, it's a combination. They're concerned about what Putin will do. And frankly, there's so much uncertainty about how the U.S. is supporting Europe at this point. And will it not, it's always been there, but now it's not. And or will it not be, or is it, or is it not? So there's the uncertainty from it all is certainly having an effect, and that effect is that Europe is uh, possibly looking to their own defense and their own. Um, they're doing something about it. Enlistments are up 23%, and the defense budget is up 80%, or it will be by 2029. They're increasing it consistently. And projects include drones and tech and experimental recon, cockroaches. There's one for
Yeah.
you. There's that could be a huge export from New York. Um,
I'm sitting on a gold mine. Yeah.
but we'll see where that leads. And so, but they're clearly they're gearing things up and uh, uh, to be ready if they need to be. There's a German startup called Swarm Biotactics, um, and they fit Madagascar hissing cockroaches with tiny backpacks carrying cameras
Adorable.
and sensors. Yeah, not only adorable, but possibly helpful. And so they have cameras and sensors, and they do basically both military recon and search and rescue. So they can help find, what if there's people, they can help find
How?
them.
Fascinating story. How do you get them to go anywhere useful? Where you want them to go? Are they dead inside? Are there? Is there a? I don't know how they do that.
Yeah, I assume that it's a matter of. I do not know the answer to that question. I assume that they mean that it's not just one cockroach, that they're doing this with a
Sure.
number of them and then sending them out and saying, "What do you see?"
Yes,
That
the
they
sending them
monitor
out part I'm
areas.
interested in. Maybe they drop them from a drone and wherever they want to infiltrate. Because I can't imagine you driving a herd of cockroaches, across hilltops and ridges until you get to the secret lair and then inside. That seems a little specific. I don't know. It's the practical part that fascinates me.
We'll have to look into that. We'll have to make that
Right?
a future story right here on PolitiPod Live. Find out about the pyrotactics of the use of cockroaches.
That's right. Cockroach spies.
um, in other world news, there's Ukrainian President Zelensky, and apparently, as part of the negotiations to end Russia's invasion, they are talking about the Ukraine dropping their bid to join NATO, um, which they want to trade it for some legally binding security guarantees from the West. I think part of the problem is they have had that already. The United States already promised them that guarantee, or made that promise a long time ago,
What?
but didn't.
How do we keep screwing our allies? This is common interests, man. These are these people gave away all their nukes, and we said, "Don't you worry, we got your back."
Yep,
Russia's crawling up their hiney hole through Crimea, and we're like, "It's fine. You don't need nukes. Aren't you glad? Aren't you glad you made that deal with us? Now we're standing here watching."
exactly. We'll be on this side of the bank. Watch though, they won't cross this. They won't
Right?
cross this line. Oh, this. I mean this.
This
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 line.
line here, yeah.
This. Yeah, yeah. This
Yeah.
one. They're definitely not.
Talk to me about old lines. This is talking about the now. Stay in the now.
Yeah.
It's pathetic. It's sad. How do we? Speaking of credibility, holy cats!
Well, but and part of that thing of dropping the NATO bid is that they are rejecting the United States pressure to cede land, to cede the land that the Russians have seized.
Yes, United States pressure to cede the land. What? You know, we got. I don't care what Trump says. Zelensky has a winning hand, and we're not helping. We're not helping like we should be helping. Send in the cockroaches.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Europe.
How about this? We're at a point now where we're saying, yes, God, hurry and arm Germany. Something's gone wrong.
Yeah, yeah. Something's very different in the world. Um, but the EU is stepping up to defend Ukraine, and they are being a counterbalance to whatever it is the U.S. is trying,
Good.
which is good. Yeah, exactly. Which is helping perhaps make things better. And although they are talking about possibly dropping their NATO bid currently, something else that has come up is that they would get increased or decreased waiting time to become part. That Ukraine would have a decreased waiting time to become part of the European Union.
Ah,
So there's things that
so EU, but no NATO.
that's what's being talked about right
All
now.
right.
Now, that could change in a week, and it could be everything is in next week or everything is out next week, but that's part of what's being talked about currently, and we'll have to see what happens in those negotiations. But that's the latest that I have on it. Um, moving over to South Korea, you may know or may not know, South Korea investigators have said that the outed conservative President Yoon plotted martial law for over a year to crush liberal rivals. Um, and he was hoping to provoke North Korea, so that would be restarting a war, and to seize total power. So if there was a war, then he'd have to be, emergency powers and would have to take over. So he'll be facing charges of rebellion, and so there's an actual action that's coming out of it, and not just brushing it off or saying he was having a bad day or seeing what they can do to bury the mistakes of the opposition. They're going to actually do something about it. So, well done, South Korea.
Huh. You can punish former leaders for trying to seize power, huh? Instructive.
Interesting.
Write that down.
Yeah, right. We'll have to see if that can be remembered. Speaking of distraction wars, we have our very own. Our distraction war with Venezuela continues while the Epstein files are due to be released this Friday. Um, so far, it looks like Hegseth has attacked 22 boats with a current total of 95 people dead so far. The famous double dip video where a boat was
Double tap.
attacked.
Double tap.
Yes, double tap. What?
You said double dip.
Double. I apologize. Um, the the double tap. So what happened was a boat was attacked under Hegseth's orders. There were survivors in the water, and allegedly he gave the order to attack again, so that the survivors in the water would be killed. There's apparently a video of exactly what happened, and apparently he made a statement saying that they're not going to release that video. Don't know why. No real excuse for it, but we're just not going to ever see that. Or, I hope that we will. Perhaps with
I
time,
suspect
but
we might.
sooner than later would be really nice. But if you ask him, he says no.
Well, I'm exhausted from this whole thing. We shouldn't be blowing these boats up in the first place, even if they're full of drugs and these guys are snorting coke out of each other's hair. And it's just ridiculous. You catch them, you put them, in jail, I guess? Fine. But you don't kill them outright. You don't even put them in jail on death row. You just put them in jail at best. We're murdering them. And then to blow them to the whole boat to Kingdom Come, and somebody's clinging to the pieces, and it's well known. The people in the military doing this are known. Look, the guy at the top is an idiot, but the people most of the way down the line probably are not. They know better. Somebody knows better. That you can't do this. If you're at war, you can't do it. And guess what? If you're not at war, still can't do it. For Pete's sake. And we're doing it. And they put out half of the video as it is, proving we have video. This is the detail. This is the level of detail we've got. And there's another 4 minutes that'll definitely put me in jail the rest of my life. And I'm not going to show it to you. And don't bother asking because I don't have to. Help yours. How long? What kind of plan is that? How long is that supposed to last? Till he's out of office? Till the 1,000-year Reich they're trying to build ends? Where in there does he see that protecting him for the rest of his life from something everybody in the world has to have told him you can't do?
Right. We'll have to see what actually does happen.
Somebody asked George Bush about, getting people killed in war crimes and not paying a price for it. I wonder how that feathered the nest for what came later.
Right. And there's certainly plenty of examples in the past. We'll have to see what actually happens with that. And we certainly hope to see that video sooner than later. Sorry?
I say it's breathtaking. I'm still mad about it.
Well, okay. One last item here for international news, and then we'll move on. It seems that with what's going on in Syria, there's been another development, and that is that the Israelis have started to move troops from the Golan Heights, which is a disputed territory in the north that's right either on the edge of Syria or some would say is part of Syria. And they've started to move troops into parts of Syria. I'm sure it will be fine.
What could go wrong? Really?
No problem. No problem.
I tell you,
We'll
the
see what
people of
actually
this administration, top notch. Every single one of them haven't missed yet.
Perfect. Let's move on. We've got one or two more things to cover. Um, First and foremost is ICE.
Yes, baby.
And this also refers to something that we had discussed in a previous episode, and you had mentioned the statement that Mayor-elect Mondami had made about ICE and knowing your rights. I thought it would be a good idea to have that actual video so we can see what he says.
Terrific.
So if
Shall we
you
roll it?
can bring that up, I'd appreciate it, and we'll see.
Got it.
Last weekend,
We'll
ICE
actually see
attempted
this.
to raid Canal Street and detain our immigrant neighbors. As mayor, I'll protect the rights of every single New Yorker, and that includes the more than 3 million immigrants who call this city their home. But we can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights. If you encounter ICE, these are the things that every New Yorker should know. First, ICE cannot enter into private spaces like your home, school, or a private area of your workplace without a judicial warrant signed by a judge. That looks like this. If ICE does not have a judicial warrant signed by a judge, you have the right to say, "I do not consent to entry," and the right to keep your door closed. Sometimes ICE will show you paperwork that looks like this and tell you that they have the right to arrest you. That is false. ICE is legally allowed to lie to you, but you have the right to remain silent. If you're being detained, you may always ask, "Am I free to go?" repeatedly until they answer you. You are legally allowed to film ICE as long as you do not interfere with an arrest. It is important to remain calm during any interaction with ICE or law enforcement. Do not impede their investigation, resist arrest, or run. One last thing. New Yorkers have a constitutional right to protest, and when I'm mayor, we will protect that right. New York will always welcome immigrants, and I will fight each and every day to protect, support, and celebrate our immigrant brothers and sisters.
Well, fantastic. I gave Mr. Mondani a bit of a hard time in my spontaneous editorial. But and that's good advice. Yeah, if you're indoors, stay indoors. You can, unless they have it signed by a judge. And they never seem to. I never see anybody. I never see them show anybody. Oh, right here, judge's signature. It always seems to be just little pig, let me in. I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll kill all your family members, drag you through this. But yeah, the point I was making, and I'm sure in my shrill tone, was that he's talking about the right to remain silent. And they're beating the hell out of people. They're breaking their shoulders. They're running them over with trucks. That doesn't get any easier to say. Anytime I say it, it doesn't wear off. They're sicking dogs on them. They're lacerating people. They're tossing them into cages. Medication, doctors' access, lawyers, Congress people, none of that. They're up to their ankles in their own pee and poo. Yeah, remain silent. Congratulations. It's insufficient. The contrast is awful. I'm sure Mondani will, and he says, "I'm going to protect your rights." Well, it would be nice if somebody got started on that. Anytime you're ready, come protect their rights. They're out in the streets being abused on camera in full daylight. This isn't behind closed doors. Protect their rights. Go ahead. Show me.
There you go. And not that isn't a fair point. And at the same time, this is just like the discussion we had a little earlier. There's the spectrum of the responses you can give. And this is, I think, first of all, the survival reaction. Where I don't think we're at a point where we're able to strike out. I do think we're at a point where we need to survive. And part of that survival is how can you respond and get through the situation? As you said,
Absolutely.
they become violent with no provocation. If you give them a provocation, what would they do then? And think of what kind of a slaughter would occur.
I'm not sure I can discuss that with you legally. I'm not sure what that would be, what that would look like, but we should have that discussion. I think I'll tell you what could happen in a perfect world. Google and Apple could put that app back on their app store so that people could coordinate their communication and their movements, so that if you see a patrol of 6 ICE people come stomping into your neighborhood, maybe 100 people show up and exercise their right to protest. No violence, right? No trouble. You don't get in the way. But when people show up in en masse, they seem to scare ICE away. They seem to, oh, I got better things to do all of a sudden. I haven't seen anybody get violent with ICE, but I've seen them cowed a few times by people showing up being pissed off. I think we could do that. I think that's manageable. I think that's possible.
Why didn't you
That's
just say
one
so?
thing. That's one thing. I don't know. Maybe there's something wrong with it. I would never want to obstruct a federal agent, Matt. That's probably illegal.
That's
But
probably true, but at the
right?
same time, what you're saying is actually happening. That's what I know. That's what's happening in New
That's
York,
what I'm
and
saying. I
that
mean, I'm inspired by example.
it is exactly. It is the right. The that is the right thing to do at this time, which is get out into the street. There are actually groups that are not only um, getting people up to speed with how to respond, but they're handing out, whistles to help you make noise. They're telling people who might be targets how to socialize in a new world. They're saying to them, you can't just gather on the street anymore. This is not safe for you. You
Right.
can do it in smaller numbers and you can go here or there, but you can't do things like you have been because of the situation we're in right now. And they
Good for
say,
them.
we'll have people walking around too, and if we see something, we'll get the people here. If we find out where they're headed, we'll have the people there. If you have, as a matter of fact, one of the groups doing it, interestingly enough, is called Know Your Rights. So when he puts out this video talking about know your rights, not only is it the constitutional thing, but he's also giving a nod of the head to a group that's actually doing the work. So that's a really good thing. Um,
Absolutely.
and you got to remember that he's also not the mayor yet.
I
The
am
the
mindful
reality,
of that.
yeah, yeah. The reality is he got elected in November, but there's that delay. Some say a ridiculous thing that shouldn't be, and we can certainly talk about removing it. I don't think anybody would have a problem with removing it, but as it is right now, you get elected in November, but the switch doesn't happen until January. So right now he can't order the
Absolutely.
city's resources to be where he wants them to be. He has to get
Sure.
to January to do that. So right now, this is what he can do: is
And
get involved, and like Brad Lander, who literally is going to the courthouse to try to escort people out of the courtrooms, that's currently the New York City comptroller. He's going to be running for Congress, and he's literally putting his body on the line, Brad Lander. He's walking with people out of the courtrooms, down the hallways, and being assaulted by ICE himself. He was arrested and then released. Um, but just like that, Mandami is doing what he can by getting information out.
there are people in power now who should be doing more.
Oh,
And it's
absolutely.
it's untenable that this is happening day in and day out. If people were being mugged by, you know, somebody not a federal agent, if they were being beaten in the streets by roving gangs of otherwise, non integrated people with the government, we know what to do about that. We know what to do about that. We squash them like bugs, and we show up in numbers, and we wrap them up, and we put them in little boxes. And yet we're not doing it here, and we need to resolve that.
There's one other video we have this week. Do you want to put the video from TikTok up there? And this also speaks to a point that you made. You'd mentioned that police. It's the exact point you just made. That part of that response should be that the local police should be defending the local people
Protect
from
and
uh,
serve.
yeah, protect and serve domestic and foreign enemies. Do you want to go ahead and play that other clip?
So this is what we're looking for. This gentleman is Brian O'Hara, and he is the Minneapolis police chief. He just came out a few days ago and said that his officers have a duty to intervene if federal immigration officials are breaking the law or using excessive force, excessive violence. His officers have a duty to intervene. That's the kind of shit we're talking about. We have seen some police officers, police chiefs in the past in some cities who've said, hey, we're not going to help. We're not going to support ICE immigration operations in any way. This guy coming out and saying that they will uphold the law and protect residents of their towns and cities, Minneapolis, that's what we're looking for. That is the motivation that hopefully spreads like wildfire to all these other towns and cities. Your job is not to roll over for these people who are assaulting individuals, members of your towns, members of your cities in the streets. Your job is to protect and serve those individuals. And so I hope this takes off. Minneapolis has been standing up in other ways too. I believe the mayor, Jacob Fry, I think his name is, said that all federal, state spaces, garages, vacant lots, everything are off limits for staging ICE operations. The police obviously are not going to support them. And as mentioned, Chief O'Hara has said that it is the duty of his officers to intervene if they are breaking the law or using excessive force. So I think he even came out and said, find another job if you don't want to work with me on that. Find another job if you don't want to intervene and stop these ICE Stapo guys from doing what they're doing. That's the kind of shit. We want the people who are supposed to protect and serve to stand up and get counted, because the kind of stuff that you're seeing online and hearing about, that is way too fucking far. And U.S. citizens on top of that. I mean, human beings in general, but they're not even playing around anymore. They are running full bore with this whole Supreme Court arrest people by appearance and language, and what jobs they're working, kind of bullshit. That needs to that needs to stop. And so good on Brian O'Hara for doing that. We need to protect some human beings, and so yeah, keep it up.
Amen, brother. Well said and well said.
There you go, and that's exactly what you were talking about. And there's also another example where DHS has arrested over 4,300 people in Operation Midway Blitz. There are students over in Chicago who are doing what they can to respond, and they're collaborating with independent and legacy newsrooms to share enforcement data and to track ICE raids and via Google Maps, and to verify agent sightings and get photographs and witnesses. There's a number of states that have included on their websites a way to report what you see. That's all evidence that could be used later. So you're absolutely right. There is a response needed, and there is something that is happening, although it is only what we can do at this point. But it's out there, and it's happening in different places. He mentioned Minnesota. We just mentioned Chicago. Got a couple of things going in New York. So wherever they show up, there's some sort of a resistance and some sort of a response. Let's, because of the time, I think maybe we should just hop right on over to our Epstein count up, and we'll look towards the days since the unredacted Epstein list has not been released. Right now it's at 3,837 days and counting. There's supposed to be something released on Friday. The documents that were requested by Congress and signed into law by the president. We'll see what that is. We should see it by Friday. That's when the due date was. But as we all know, there are sometimes funny little delays that pop up last minute on that kind of deadline.
Gets so complicated.
So right. It could be too. We'll see. Maybe it will actually be released. Maybe there'll be one of these delays. But in either case, we'll have to see if it's actually redacted, or if there's big black marker crossing outs of certain people's names and perhaps certain particular evidence. But we will all keep an eye out for that. So right now we're going to say 3,837 and look to add 7 days to that in 7 days' time. Thanks for joining us at PolitiPod Live for Political Talk. You're welcome to join us every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here for PolitiPod Live. If you want political laughs, you can join us and a half dozen of our friends for our monthly political comedy podcast, PolitiPod. You'll find that at soundcloud.com/PolitiPod. This is Matt Nisanoff
And I'm Tom Bickle.
saying good night.